Live. Right, we're live on YouTube. Sorted. We'll let it populate a little bit. Excuse me. Happy fucking Friday. A few people jumping on now. Guys jumping on Instagram, just leave me an emoji in the comments just to let me know that you can hear me, you can see me okay. My microphone that I've got on my phone is on red. Hopefully it's not going to run out. But if it does part the way through, someone can say, hey, Nob, I can't hear you. And I will disconnect it and we'll go off the iPhone mic. Cool. Right, we've got 10 on Instagram, we've got one on YouTube, and we've got a couple on Facebook. Cool. I'm going to give it another 30 seconds. Cheers, Scott. Appreciate that. I'm going to give it another 30 seconds, and then I'm going to get into it. This is also going to be an episode of my podcast. 228 podcast episodes I've got. You can find that on iTunes or Spotify or Stitcher, all over the fucking place. Type 1 Movement, it's called. Right, shall we hit record? Shall we get into it? I think we should. Right. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to another episode of the Type 1 Movement podcast. And in today's episode, just saying to the guys on the live then, this is actually the 228th episode. I've been running this podcast for about 3 or 4 years. I think that's a fair amount of episodes, right? But more specifically, in today's episode, I'm going to be taking you through the 4-step framework to stopping high and low blood sugar levels. Not stopping them completely, but more or less like figuring out why they happened. It's going to be a good one. Grab a pen and paper. I'm going to hopefully give some of you people a bit of an awakening moment as well. But before we do get into it, please leave me a rating and a review on the podcast app or whatever device or platform you are listening to this on, as it really does help me reach more type 1 diabetics and positively impact our community. I run no paid ads or anything like that towards this podcast. It's just me promoting it and you guys promoting it, so I really do appreciate that. Also, give it a screenshot, share it on your socials, and tag me at type1_Tom or Tom Allison on Facebook so I can reach out and say thank you. Right, so the reason that I thought this would make a really good episode is because I've just had a chat with one of our coaches, right? And this coach had a client who was losing the shit a little bit because she's got a spike, yeah? And I basically explained to the coach, and this is what I do personally and what we're trying to install in all of our clients, a 4-step framework to figuring out why we get highs, why we get lows, and stopping it. Now, guys watching on the live, I want you to stick me a thumbs up emoji if you can relate to what I'm about to say. Guys listening on the podcast, give me a silent head nod. So if you get a high or a low, predominantly a high, because when we're low, we're flapping what sorted it out. If you start to feel frustrated, you start to get all emotional, you start to lose your shit, stick me a thumbs up emoji in the comments or give me a silent head nod if you listen to this on the podcast. I know that I have done in the past and still do sometimes, but what I'm about to share with you, this 4-step framework, is hopefully going to help you chill the fuck out a little bit and actually start being proactive with your diabetes management instead of reactive. If that makes sense. Yeah. So I'm going to share this framework, and this is what I spoke to one of our coaches about and what she's then gone and, installed into the client and stuff like that. And this is really, really going to help you. So the first part, step number 1 in this framework, is when you do see a high or a low, you need to chill the fuck out. Yeah. We don't make great decisions when our emotions are that fucking high. Think of rage bolusing, overcorrecting a hypo, all that sort of shit. Like, when our emotions are that high, we don't make great decisions. Think about when your partner's wound you up and you said you're an absolute dickhead, mate, or you've had a big go at them because you're all emotional. And then 5 minutes later, you're going, I love you, I'm so sorry. Do you know what I mean? We just don't make good decisions when we're that emotional. So I would breathe. If it's a hypo, obviously sort it. If it's a high, give you correction, sort that. But I would take a breath and I would calm down and I would try and emotionally detach yourself from the outcome, right? Try and emotionally detach yourself from looking at the numbers, from looking at the arrows up or the arrows down. Just stop, because you're going to get all in your own head and everyone's just giving me a silent head nod or a thumbs up. And I've done it in the past. You know how this feels. We don't make good decisions. So step number 1 is chill the fuck out. Step number 2, what we don't want to focus on is the outcome. We need to find the cause, yeah? So I'll give you the example that I've said to one of our coaches for her client. She got a really big spike because she predicted she was going to drop low. Now, It's the outcome of something, in this case, a big spike, that we get emotionally attached to, which means that we can't find the cause. So step number 2 is not focusing on the outcome of something, not focusing on the spike or the low. We need to actually strip it back, and we need to be able to find the cause of why that said high or low happened, because this is where the magic lies, right? And this is why we get so emotionally attached, because we're getting a big spike or we're getting a big low, and we're just not looking back. We're not stripping it back enough. Yeah. So step number 2, don't focus on the outcome. We need to be able to find the cause. Yeah. And step number 3 is figuring out what actually caused it. So what caused the low or what caused the high? Now, I like to run this through 3 things, these 3 main components that are going to impact our blood sugar levels. Yeah. That are going to cause a spike or low or to stay in range. The first one is insulin. The second one is food. And the third one is our activity. They may be more like stress and all that sort of stuff, but I'm on about if something's happening consistently. Yeah. So step number 1 is chilling the fuck out. Relax. Calm your emotions, mate. You ain't going to make good decisions when you're highly fucking stressed. Step number 2 is don't focus on the outcome. Obviously, treat it if you're getting a low or you're getting a high, but stop wasting all your mental energy there. We need to find out the cause of it, which leads us on to step number 3, figuring out what actually caused it. Was it something to do with your insulin? Did you over bolus and drop low? Did you not give enough and spike? Do you need to add or decrease next time? Do you need to go back and test your basal rate or your carb ratio? The second thing I run it through is food. Did we not count our macros correctly? Was there an incorrect carb count? Did we not realize how much fat or protein was in the meal that caused a prolonged sort of spike hours after? All these things you need to run it through. Then activity. Have we just finished a workout? Did we have increased insulin sensitivity? Have we not been that active? Have we been a bit of a lazy bastard and sat on our arse and chilled most of the day? Which means our insulin sensitivity is decreased. We need a little bit more. Yeah. So then your job to run it through step number 3, run it through insulin, food, activity, and figure out what the specific of the cause was. With the said client that I spoke about, she was starting to get a drop in the morning. Yeah. And then overcorrected and gone high. So we don't know yet, but my educated guess, what it could potentially be something to do with insulin and basal insulin specifically. Yeah. So that gives you a bit of an example. And then step number 4 is finding the solution. So what we've done step number 1, we chilled the fuck out. We're all right. We're a bit calm. Slightly more calm than you losing your shit and running around the house. Yeah. Step number 2, we're not focusing on the outcome. We're finding the cause. Step number 3 is figuring out what caused it. Is it insulin? Is it food? Is it our activity levels? And step number 4 is then finding and applying a solution for it. So if it was the insulin, was it our basal insulin, our background, or our bolus? Did we need to add or decrease? Sorry. If it was the food, like I said, finding the solution for it. Was we a little bit lazy with tracking? Did we incorrectly count one of the macros? If it was activity, what's the solution to that? Do we need to be a little bit more active? Do we need to use temp basal rates? Do we need to add a bolus before if it's a strength workout? It's figuring out the solution. When you next see a high or a low, obviously if it's a serious one, treat it. But if you can just calm down and run it through this 4-step framework, you're going to be less frustrated. You're going to feel less overwhelmed. And it's also going to start to build confidence because you now have a framework when you encounter a problem. So you're able to solve that problem. And me personally, I believe our job, all of us as type 1 diabetics, every single one of us, our job is to solve problems. And we need certain frameworks to run them through, right? Because even I've got great control, like some of our coaches have, like a lot of our clients have, but still, we're going to run into problems. We're going to get spikes. We're going to get lows. It's inevitable. But if you can chill out and you can run it through this framework, it's going to build confidence and it's going to mean that you're finding a solution for the problem. So these highs and lows are going to become less frequent, which means better average, better time in range, better A1C, you feel better, and you can live life potentially to its fullest as well. Team, that is it. If you got value from this episode, like I said at the start, please leave me a rating and review on the podcast app, and also give it a screenshot, share it on the socials, and I'll reach out to you and say thank you very much. Whatever you are doing with your day, make it a great one, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Peace. Right, I'm going to stay on for a couple of minutes or so and see if we get any questions. I'm going to stay on for a minute or two. I noticed a few comments and stuff coming in. whilst I was chatting on. So we will see. Natalie, watching from a Type 1 Son. Thanks for the info. No worries. Thank you. Let's have a look on YouTube. Got a couple of thumbs up on there. I'll have a look for you guys on Instagram. Some thumbs up. Cool. Johnny, do you ever notice blood sugar can rise randomly without actually eating or doing anything to make it rise? Yes, it can. This would then be down to checking your background or your basal insulin, making sure that's correct. And then looking at what you've actually done before it. Have you been rushing around? Are you stressed? Are you getting ill? Excuse me. If your basal rate's correct, it could be one of the other things. So yeah, it can happen, but then I would always suggest going looking at your background insulin. Look for any more questions. Great info, Tom. You're more than welcome. Thank you very much. Cool. Right. Let's call it there. Thanks for jumping on and watching, everyone. Appreciate it. Hopefully you guys got value from this, because that's what I'm doing these for at the end of the day, to deliver some value to you guys. It is Friday, time recording this. We're heading for the weekend, so I hope everyone has a great Friday and enjoy your weekends. See you all later.